Hey everyone, and welcome to Geriatric Mom. This would be episode 10, and I'm going to name this one I Don't Know What the Hell I'm Doing. I bet a lot of parents feel like that. Um, so I thought it would be fun and helpful to do an episode on advice and tips, things that I've learned, as well as I did reach out and got some advice from some other people too. So, for what I've learned so far is first of all, a newborn's hard no matter what. That's just difficult. Uh, your whole life changes. You know, you're used to just being able to leave whenever you want and go and do whatever you want. And it's hard because then you have this little human with you and you can't just, pop into the gas station or just run into the store real quick. It's a whole shenanigan. So I think that's really where, for parents, it's going to be important that you have a good partner. And I know that that's not always the case for everyone, and it's so unfortunate. I don't know what I would do without my husband. He literally has been so amazing. I can't even put into words how helpful he is and how understanding he is and how he just handles everything so well, and he has just been such a great support throughout everything, and he is such an amazing dad. So I think having a good partner and having a good support is huge. I don't know what I would do without him, and I don't know how Onan and I would survive otherwise. So support is huge, whether that's friends, whether that's family, whatever your support system is. I think really depending on them is very important. So that would be my number one thing. Number two, it's okay to take a break, which for me is really hard. I am the type of person that if I take a break or I say, I can't do something or something like that, to me, that means I feel like I'm weak, and I hate feeling like that. I always want to be able to do everything, and no matter how hard it is, I always want to try. And so I feel like taking a break is huge for your mental well being and your physical well being. I was trying to do everything, around the house. I was trying to, continue on like I had before Odin, and then adding Odin in, and then we have our three dogs, and just trying to manage. And then I was trying to work out, and I tried working out too soon after the C-section, and that was a thing. And so I really had to just take a step back and realize, that I just need a minute. So I think that's important for parents to know too. It's okay to take a break, and it's okay if you just need some time. Uh, Once again, relying on that support system to be there and to help you through that, I think is huge. Another thing um, is just knowing that everything isn't going to go exactly the way you thought it was going to be. I talked about it before, but the pregnancy C-section, as much as I'm so thankful for Odin and I love having him and I wouldn't change anything, things might not go the way you want them to go, and that's okay too. In the end, I'm healthy, he's healthy, Chris is healthy, and we're our own little family. So I just want to remind everybody that, it's okay if things don't go the way you planned or the way that you think they will, or it's definitely not always magical and easy, and it can be very difficult. So some of these I'm going to go ahead and start reading some of them, and then we can talk about it. I thought all of these were great ideas and great advice for new parents, parents that have already been parents, and just pretty much everyone in general. So one of them is always treat your kids with respect. Just because something isn't important to you doesn't mean it's not important to them. They will treat you with respect back. I think that's huge. As much as I loathe sports and things like that, if Odin is, if that's what he loves and that's what he does, I will definitely support him in no matter what he does. And I love that because I might not love those things and they might not be my favorite, but I'm going to love them and respect it because that's what he loves and that's what he wants to do. So I think that's a really, really important advice. And I do agree that, giving your kids respect and, showing them that, I give you respect, you give me respect. I think that's huge in a good relationship with your child. And for me, obviously Odin's not old enough for that, but I just feel like with my own parents and everything, I think that's huge. We had another one that says read to them every day, which I think is amazing. Odin is so not into the books yet. Chris and I both have tried, and he doesn't love it yet. But I'm hoping as he, obviously he's only 4 months old, but as he enters more into like the toddler stage and starts to like be more into pictures and stuff, that he'll like that. Say I love you at least once a day. I can't say how huge that is just in life in general. You never know what's going to happen. And I know that we say that all the time, but you really, really don't. I think it's important to say I love you to people when you're saying bye. And if you really truly do love them and care about them, I think that's huge. So that's great advice to make sure you tell your kid that every single day because and not that my parents didn't, but I feel like just struggled with that throughout my whole entire life. So I think just making that as prominent as you can that they do love you and they do support you, I think is huge. So that will definitely be something that I will be utilizing with Odin. Another one, just remember that anything they do, you probably did react appropriately. I didn't, and I regret it every single day. So I think that is also very, very powerful. Um, Obviously I've done a lot of things in my life and I made my mistakes. I had a really bad couple years, but I made a lot of mistakes in that couple years. But I feel like I was able to get them out of my system pretty quickly, and my parents allowed me to make those mistakes and to learn my own lessons. And it really did help me throughout the rest of my life because I figured out really quick what I didn't want to be and who I didn't want to be and what I didn't want people to think about me. And so I think that's huge. And I think that knowing that I've done those things, that is correct. Reacting appropriately to when Odin does something. And I think that would entail conversations and, kind of dependent on the situation, how that would go about. So I think that is huge. And I think very important to remind yourself and to think about, especially as they get older and really trying to relate to them and being understanding while still being that parent at the same time. Enjoy each and every day. This is just amazing for life in general. Obviously, life can be so difficult, and I think that now we spend so much time just wishing things were different, or we did this, or we did that, or wanting this, and I think that we miss out on just enjoying every day. How I'm so very thankful that I have Chris and that I have Odin and I have my dogs and I have my family. I think that that's just so powerful to just remind yourself how beautiful it is that we are here each and every day and that it truly is, you know, a gift, and we should appreciate that and love, the situation we're in. And once again, if you're not happy in that situation, then it's probably time for a change and to do something different so you can enjoy your life. You don't want to waste, you know, 10 years, 15 years, 20 years not being happy and wasting that time that you have, because it really is, every day is a gift. Let's see. Write down every memory, big or little. Your child will appreciate it someday, especially if something ever happens to you while they are young. Speaking from experience, my kids cherish every memory that they have of their dad. and the ones that others share with them. It's a great reminder of how much they are loved. Uh, I love that. It's so hard, but it's so true. And this is just a perfect example of what can happen. We don't know when our time is going to be up, or when something could happen, because something could happen at any time, and you never know when, you never know why. Something could happen to me, something could happen to Chris. So I agree with this 100%. I have a little memory book for Odin that I started, and I've been pretty consistent about making sure I write things down in it. Even like silly little things that I say to him that gets him all excited. We do this big, so big, so strong thing every morning, and he goes wild. And I've made up a whole bunch of dumb songs for him. So I wrote like some of those in his book for him, just so that he knows, like, those are memories that we had together. And no matter how little he was, I've always, loved him so much. So I think there's just so much power in that statement, in that situation. And it would be so horrible, but I think at least giving them something to try to remember you by, or knowing you a little bit, is huge. So make those memory books. I am insane, and I know I only have one child, but I've already filled up. It's like, I think it holds like 800 photos, and it's almost full, and he's only like 4 months old. So, yep. Um, Probably should get one of those digital picture frames. Yeah. But I think this is huge. I think that's smart, and I think that's important to think about, and something you don't want to think about, but it it would just be so amazing to have those memories for your child, if they need them, or just so that they have them when they get older too. Tequila. I'm drinking my wine right now. Probably won't have any tequila. Um, I think this is for as they get older, and maybe test your patience a little bit, but I probably will still withhold from the tequila, because hard alcohol is rough. So we'll just stick to the wine. Um, Love them just the way they are. There's a million books about how to raise kids, but there's not a single one about your specific child. They are all different. Embrace them and love them for their differences. I think that's really important too. If you even, I obviously won't only have Odin, but if you look at all the kids in our family, so there's myself, then there's my sister Tiana, then my sister Katie, and then my brother Sam. And if you look at every single one of us, we are so insanely different. We have similarities, yes, but we are so different. It's just crazy how different kids can be, and come from the same, you know, family, same, mom and dad. Our mom and dad was around for both of us. There's definitely an age difference between, me and my brother, pretty big gap, but it's crazy how different, like, the personalities can be. I feel like I've always been a little more hot mess, and especially when I was a kid, and then like after that I'm like so insanely like overkill. I want to work a lot. I want to do things. I have all these goals, and I don't like being told that I can't do those. And so I feel like I push it into overdrive, and I'll just like destroy myself trying to meet these goals. And I'm really OCD, and I have really bad anxiety, so I'm always like just on it, no matter how bad I feel, which is all the time. But so I think there's that, and then there's my sister Tiana, who, and I always really struggled in school, and my sister Tiana didn't. She's extremely smart, very common sense smart too. She's pretty hardworking too. She worked two jobs for a long time. She has two kids. And then my sister Katie, she is definitely a hard worker, but she definitely struggled a little bit in school too. Just it took us a little more to get things than, like Tiana or my brother. My brother's insanely smart too. Like, things just catch on for them a little easier, and they're just insanely smart. And I think it's just crazy how different we all are in our interests. Like, I could care less about sports, and my sister Katie and my brother love them, and it's just crazy. just how different kids can be. So if you have multiple kids, I could definitely see how that might be difficult, especially trying to meet every single one of their needs. But I think that's just so important that you try to, relate to each of them. And every kid is different, and not one thing is going to work for your kid that works for somebody else's kid. And I think that's important to know. I have read books, and not a thing that I read helped me with Odin when he was, colicky at night. And I think that that's just important to know too, is you can read all the books in the world, and it still, might not be helpful. They might have helpful ideas, but every child is different and every need is different. So that's very important. This one is from my dad, obviously. I'm your dad, so this may not be fair as I raised you, but allow your children to grow and learn not only in school, but in the lessons that can come hard in life. Allow them to be individuals and to grow and learn on their own paths. So my parents definitely did that for me. Um, I know that they were so upset when I was not doing well when I was younger, and they did let me go and they let me fall on my face. And that's literally the best thing that they could have done, because I got all of that craziness out so quickly and learned my lesson so fast, and then, as an adult, in future episodes, we'll talk about like the codependency I've had, and, the relationships that I had with that involved domestic violence and um, addiction issues and all of that. But those were things that I had to learn too, and they were really hard lessons to learn, to let people go. And if they're not treating you right, then they're not somebody that should be in your life. But somebody telling you that and learning that, to me, are like two different things. Some things I feel like some people just need to learn in life, and some are you're able to tell them and they're like, "Oh, I never want to do that." But I definitely am one of those people that I learned the hard way. So that's been rough, but I am so very thankful for my parents and letting everything happen the way it happened, because if not, it would have been probably way worse, to be honest with you. I probably wouldn't have grown up so quick and, gotten it together. They follow what you do, not what you say, but what you say can always stick with them forever. They need a lot of love, respect, patience, and grace. I absolutely love this one. Um, the memories that I have, are things that I think you forget about, like the little things in between. So like my memories mainly include like things that were really really happy in my life and that were really really bad. But like those in between things where it's just like, you don't really remember, but the things that you do remember are the great things and the really terrible things. And so I totally agree with this. I think that watching what you say and how you say it is so important. Of course, we all get upset sometimes and we say things, incorrectly or inappropriately. And I definitely, um, I'm 100% guilty of this. So I just think this is like super powerful to just maybe bring yourself back for a minute and think about what you want to say and how you want to say it, because that's going to be huge in that conversation and how that whole interaction goes with your child. And I think that's just from like a little kid to as being an adult, how your interactions are going to go. And I think this is just important in day-to-day life too. How you interact with people is huge, and what you say and how you say it are very, very important. And like I said, when you get frustrated, those things can change, and your facial expressions and your body language and everything. So I think this is very powerful, and I think it's it's great advice. Um, Being patient is huge. Chris kept saying, "Thank you for being so patient with Odin," and you know, I was like, "Yeah, yeah, yeah," But it's true though. You have to be so patient with them and just let it go. Just let it roll and just roll with it, because getting frustrated and upset, which we've all had our moments. I had a few breakdowns where I lost my marbles just crying. But I think just having that patience with him and knowing he's a baby and he can't say what he wants to say, and just you're just doing the best you can, and just really rolling with that and rolling into it, I think is huge. Really read to them, encourage them, say I love you, accept that they may disappoint you at times. You will need tons of patience. Tell them that drinking water kills all. Those are both from my mom. So when I was growing up, man, you could bust yourself and that lady would be like, drink some water. It is great though. It's still like one of my favorite sayings because anytime I get like a little paper cut, anything, I'm like, I'm just drink some water, I'll be fine. So I I do love that. And I do think that at some points that's good because you do need your children to be a little bit tough. I'm not saying you have to be like, but I think that it's important for them not to just, be able to cry about everything. You have to have a little tough skin and, be able to go with those things and, get through those things. So, reading to them, we discussed, I think is huge. As Odin gets bigger, I definitely think that'll be great for him. And I think it just helps them learn and know that it's important. Encouraging your kids, I think, is huge. Just telling them that they can do it and not to give up and to keep going and, you know, just really being supportive is huge. I'm sure that Odin will do things that will disappoint me one day, and that is what it is. And like the previous statement, it's just having that patience and respecting your child and really thinking about what you're saying and how that interaction is going to go, I think is huge. Another one, really savor this first year. It goes by in a blink. I think that's huge because I cannot believe that he's already 18 weeks old, probably even older. I'd have to look because I don't even know where we're at this point. So it just goes by so fast. And I thought when I first went on maternity leave, I'm like, oh my gosh, this is going to be the longest 16 weeks of my life because I've never stayed home like that before. And it went by so insanely fast. And now I'm like, oh, I should have went on more walks. I should have done this. And I hate that feeling. So I agree with this 100%. Just taking in every moment, I think is huge. And so, yes, I have 18,000 pictures of my son. Oh, well, you know. I want to remember every single moment and I want to be a part of everything that he does. Slow down, enjoy every moment. You never get that time back. That's huge. Like I was just saying, you don't get that time back. Like now I'm like, oh, I should have went on more walks. I should have done this with him or maybe I should have done more tummy time and you know what I mean? It's just you can sit there and think all you want, but just really being present and enjoying that time and just rolling with how it goes, I think is huge and just really being appreciative of being in this situation and having him, I think is great and just having our little family. Children will do and say the most amazing things. Listen. So I think that's important too. I think that making your children feel heard and to let them express themselves is insanely important. Um, I think that even if what they're saying to you might not feel important to them, it's very important. And like was said before, that's huge. You need to pay attention to what's important to them and make them feel, you know, that it's just as important to you as it is to them so that you can have those good interactions. So that's huge. Let them follow their interests, like activities or sports, even if it's not something you do. Like I said before, if Odin loves sports, that's great. I don't love sports. I can do it if I'm in person. It's not so bad, but like watching things on TV, it makes me want to just like bash my head against the wall. It's just not my thing. Um, so I think that that's so important that I'll just, and I know that just because he's doing it and he's so excited, I know I'm going to be excited. So I don't see that being an issue, but I have seen this be an issue for parents and for children before where, the kids are upset with their parents because they don't, you know, care about their interests or don't show any interest in their interests. And I feel like that's just so important to keep that positive relationship. I do know I have a couple more. Let's see. So this one's actually just like a really good tip, I think, to help parents feel like not so overwhelmed. So this one is about having noise canceling headphones or earplugs on hand. And that might sound, different, but I think it's a great idea when I was thinking about it. So if you have one kid, you have two kids, you have three kids, four kids, whatever, if you have the ability to put those on and that helps you take better care of your kids, I think that's absolutely amazing. If that's what you need to do for you as a parent to be able to, woo-saw, calm, and be able to do what you need to do to take care of your kids, I think is so amazing. And it's something I haven't heard of before, but I think it's a fantastic idea. So for parents out there that have really bad anxiety issues, or you just get overwhelmed, or it's just a lot, I think that's a fantastic idea. And you can put those on while you're caring for your baby. I kind of wish I had that when, Odin was colicky and I was carrying him around. It would have made it less overwhelming for me if I didn't, have that blaring screaming like right there, and still caring for him and doing everything I need to do. I think that's a fantastic idea. Definitely, for a parent to try to help them not feel as overwhelmed. Um, so there is some other advice on here too. Um, this one I'm just gonna kind of read, and it wasn't really about the parenting advice, but it was in response to something else I had said. And this one is just about being a stay-at-home parent is equivalent to having two and a half full-time jobs, which I think is really important for people to understand that I loved staying at home, but it's definitely like it's different than going to work. They're both difficult in their own ways. I loved being at home, but it definitely is a lot. And now it's a lot, working and then going home afterwards and doing all the things that you need to do. But I just think it's important to appreciate your partner, whether you're the one working or you're both working or you stay home or whatever the case may be. Just really being appreciative of what that other person does and understanding that not every day is going to be perfect. Not every day the house is going to be cleaned. The most important part is that the children are taken care of, and that's coming from someone who's insane. Like I love a clean house, and am I just yeah. So I think that is really important to just, really be appreciative of each other and just knowing that it's, okay that that might not happen all the time, that everything might not be perfect. And then this one is for mamas. I know dads gain weight too sometimes during pregnancy. But just allowing yourself some grace and losing that baby weight for moms, I think is huge. I just started losing weight, and obviously, like I said, I had my son almost 5 months ago, and it's been so difficult for me, someone who has struggled with food their whole entire life, from eating disorders to binge eating to, fat, skinny, whatever, I'm just all over the place. And I think that's really hard to see yourself like that, and it just doesn't, like things that you used to do, like cutting your calories and doing all those things to try to lose the weight quickly, it wasn't working. And then I would lose my breast milk supply too. So, you know, I think just giving yourself that grace and knowing that eventually it's going to be okay and you're going to lose that weight, and just giving yourself some grace, I think is huge. Like this does. It took 9 months to put it on. It's going to take at least 9 months to get it off, which for me is definitely going to be a little longer than the 9 months at this point since we haven't lost anything. So I think that's just really important to give yourself grace and just really, take that time to just allow yourself to heal too, vaginal birth, C-section, whatever the case may be. I think that's just so important to, you know, give yourself that time. So this comment's really good too. It speaks to that. It says self-care definitely. If your partner is in, is involved, couples care. We called it couch time. When we got home, we took 15 minutes to reconnect on the sofa, and we took 15 minutes to catch up for the day. And the kids knew that was your uninterrupted time, which I think is great. I think that your partner is still important to you. Like Chris and I have talked about, like we understand that this is going to be different and it's going to be a change, and our work schedules are going to be different, so we're not going to see each other as much and everything. But I think that having that understanding with one person and the other, and just giving each other a little bit of time together, I think is huge, because you're no matter what, your child is important, but your relationship is important too. I think that letting things like that go is part of why relationships fail sometimes, is because you don't really take that little extra time just to put into one another. So I think that's really good advice and a great idea. Be patient. We know that's a definitely a really good idea. Self-care, we're just talking about. One advice that I got was sleep when the baby sleeps, and that was absolutely impossible for me. So if you can do that, that's great. I could not. I was insane cleaning, doing everything I could do. But like this says, you don't necessarily need to clean or do things. That's okay. Paint your nails, you know, pluck your eyebrows, do whatever makes you happy, put on your makeup, do something for yourself, do some self-care. And I think that's huge, because you need to put that time into yourself, because if you can't take care of you, you can't take care of them. Remember to take care of yourself. So another one, take the naps. Yeah, so naps are huge. I didn't start doing that until I was pretty much over with maternity leave, and it would have been so amazing if I had done that beforehand. Took the naps when I could, and I felt so much better, and now that's just out the window, so I can't do that. So if you can take naps when the baby naps, or you know, definitely go to bed when the baby goes to bed, or whatever the case may be, just really try to get your sleep, because that affects me emotionally, physically, everything. So I think that's super important that you make sure you take care of yourself and you have good sleep hygiene too. No one knows your baby more than you do. Follow your gut. So I think this is super important, because if you feel like something isn't right with your baby, you making sure that you're heard, I think is huge. So, if your baby's sick and you feel like they're not listening, or, you are concerned, I think like bringing up those subjects is huge. When we first had our son, we took him in, and it was kind of not like worried that he did this like pterodactyl sound, and it was terrible, and we ended up taking him back in, and they did listen and hear us, and they did figure out what the issue was, which was a floppy voice box, and it was causing him to choke and make like these horrendous sounds and stuff, and it's definitely improved. But I think that it made us feel not crazy and heard when we took him back in, and really just knew that we weren't being, over dramatic, and there was something, wrong. So I think that's really great advice. It says in the beginning, make sure to be a cautious parent, which I think is very true. Me and Chris will not be putting Odin in daycare. And I know a lot of people have to, and they have to do what they have to do. And that is definitely your individual choice. But that's not something that we're comfortable with, and we won't be doing. So once he's older and he can go to preschool and everything, we'll definitely probably do that. But right now we are figuring out our shifts and our work schedules and everything to best be able to take care of him, just Chris and I. So to me, that's us being cautious, and that's us trying to protect him, and that's just really really important to us, and that to us that's how we're protecting him. Not that if you put them in daycare that you're not. That's definitely not the case. People know amazing people, and we just don't, and we haven't had that experience in life, so we are just trying to figure that one out on our own. Don't always hover around them, especially like when they're in the teenage years, which I think is very smart too. I feel like the more you try to hold kids back, the crazier they get. So, once again, like me, let them fall on their face. And sometimes that's going to be extremely hard. And I know I'm going to be in that situation with Odin at some point, and it's going to be hard. But I really think that learning those life lessons on your own and making mistakes is a huge part of growing and becoming your own person. So we'll definitely see how that goes, but I know it's going to be hard, and so that's good advice. Um and then there's just lots of like, love and caring for your kids, and so I think all of this is like super super great advice, right? And none of us have one answer that fits everything. We all are different. We all handle things different. There's stay-at-home moms, there's stay-at-home dads, there's daycares, there's working parents. And I think just doing what is best for you and your family is always going to be the right answer. So talking that through with your partner, your spouse, and really discussing those things and how you're going to handle them, I think is really, really important. Chris and I have had multiple conversations about things. We kind of discuss daycare, but that's just not us. And vaccinations, that was a different conversation that we've had and we continue to have. And he gets some of them, and he might not get some of them. And I think that just really appreciating each other is important. So that's a huge piece of advice that I take away from this, and just really listening to your children and utilizing your patience to the best of your ability to help them better throughout their lives. I know all of our goals for our children are for them to grow up and to be happy and to be, good functioning people in society. And I think just utilizing some of these tips and sharing what you know and what you've experienced is huge to help other parents and to help them get through things, and once again know that they're not alone and that they can reach out if they need anything. So once again, I still have no clue what I'm doing. I thought I knew a whole bunch about babies, and Odin has taught me that I literally know jack, to be honest. So I mean, he's really good now, but in the beginning, oh boy, I hadn't really ever taken care of a baby with colic before, and so that was difficult. And just really using all those soothing techniques, and then just really working your way through that is huge. So if you have a colicky baby, I feel for you. It's a lot. Um, it definitely does get better. It's hard and it's frustrating, and if you need to walk away, you definitely need to do that. And I think that that's important for parents to know too. It's okay to just step back for a moment and take a minute for you to breathe so that you can best take care of them. But I truly appreciate all of the advice from everyone. I think that these are great ideas that I will definitely utilize, for years to come and to help me raise Odin. And I would love to hear more from other people as well. Once again, I am looking for people to be on the show, share your stories, your tips, your advice. I think that sharing this is huge, and it makes me not feel alone when I hear other stories and hear advice from people like this too. That it's gonna be okay, and they've been through ABC, so that's so important. If you want to reach out to me, I am on Spotify, I am on TikTok, I am on Instagram, I am on Facebook. I also have my own website, www.geriatricmom.com. And just you can message me anytime. Um, there's a little contact us button on the website that goes to my email. So if you want to reach out and we can discuss things, like I said, video, no video, yeah, in person, not in person, virtually, whatever the case may be, am willing. But I do think that it would be nice to have others on this show share their experiences and what their life has been like, moms, dads, everyone. So once again, this is Geriatric Mom, and I will talk to you later.